Trauma of abandonment. What is abandonment trauma and how is it formed? We all, to some extent, fear being rejected or abandoned by those who are important and dear to us. This is a natural fear that is directly related to our nature, our sociability. But when we talk about abandonment trauma, it's much more serious. People aren't just worried about being alone, they're afraid of being alone. Restless thoughts literally prevent a person from sleeping normally, interacting with others, or building relationships. How is the trauma of abandonment formed? Typically in early childhood. A time when children are just beginning to form connections with the outside world. How does he do it? Through my parents. When you provide basic psychological needs, love, safety, acceptance, and affection, your child will perceive the world as good, accessible, and safe. However, at this stage of mental development, when a child encounters a loss, death of a parent, separation from family, long-term neglect, emotional coldness, etc., the child becomes traumatized. Children do not understand how to cope with trauma, especially if there is no one nearby to help them. Make a note of the situation when the child is left in the care of the grandparents. This makes the problem worse, as the baby develops a persistent feeling of helplessness and abandonment. And this feeling often follows a person throughout life. What happens next? People have trouble with self-esteem. He constantly maintains a balance between "I am needed" and "I am not needed," which becomes unbearable and traumatic. In parallel with this, a person falls into a state of permanent anxiety, for which there is no objective reason. He is always being mobilized, as if he is being abandoned again. The trauma of abandonment affects all areas of a person's life, especially their relationships with the opposite sex. He constantly feels that he is not good enough, not worthy enough, and worries that he will be betrayed and abandoned. All of this somehow ends up forming a completely unhealthy relationship scenario that is unlikely to make people happy. The trauma of abandonment is something no one can deal with alone. It is very important to contact a qualified professional and get the help you need.